Hi, everyone. Kelly here. And today I have Max Weltman from Weltman Studios. Max and I are going to be chatting about how he was able to leave three jobs and create a full-time private studio in 6 months. So, Max, before we go any further, I'd love to take this opportunity to have you introduce yourself. Can you tell us a little bit more about you, your studio, what you teach, who you teach, all that good stuff?
All right. Yeah, thank you, Kelly. So, my name is Max Weltman. I am the owner of Weltman Studios. I run it out of a little mountain town in Vermont, and I currently have students in, I think, about like 7 or 8 states, which is pretty cool. Um, I work with mostly younger people, mostly people elementary, middle, or high school age, but I do have some older students. Um, and I work with, again, mostly beginner and intermediate students who either have no experience in music or who are just have been lost in their journey. And I like to say that my specialty is just being able to connect with people on a human level and breaking it down and explaining what is mystifying to them in a way that makes sense, even if it takes a few explanations, which sometimes it does. So, and hitting on passion points too. So I've really, I also have a psychology background, so I like to use the model of learning through what their interests are rather than forcing things upon them. Um, so it works really well, and it's really fun, and it's a dream come true to be in the place that I'm in right now.
Fantastic. I'm super happy for you. I know that this has been a long time coming and a goal that
Mm-hmm.
you've had in mind for several years.
Mm.
So before this, let's kind of back up to pre full-time Weltman Music Studio and what this looked like. You were working for several other places, including, I believe, Guitar Center and teaching
Mm-hmm.
there. And what instruments were you teaching for Guitar Center, and what did that schedule kind of look like?
So okay, so it was different before 2020 and after 2020. Before 2020, I worked there 6 days a week, in addition to working at a high school 5 days a week. Um, and at Guitar Center, they gave me drum students, and I'm not a drummer. I've never taken a drum lesson. I was just literally like teaching off YouTube videos to beginner drummers. It was kind of ridiculous. And then bass, guitar, piano, and ukulele. And I don't teach bass currently because I'm fully remote. And after 2020, still working for Guitar Center, found that bass just really doesn't travel well over Zoom. Maybe there's some settings that work. So currently, I am teaching still the core three instruments that I play, which is piano, guitar, and ukulele. And I could take on saxophone students, but right now I haven't made that jump because that's just a lot of instruments to bring if I go somewhere. Um, so I'm
Yeah, and
now.
as you mentioned,
Mm,
a lot of experts to take with you. We should mention, so not only are you fully online in your teaching and in your
mm,
studio, but the goal here was to be remote.
mm,
So when we first met, you were talking about this amazing idea of like, I don't necessarily just want to stay in Vermont. I want to be able to travel or, take
mm.
long weekends and take my studio with me. So I'm not just locked into one place. So working 6 days a week was not that.
Mm-mm.
What
Mm-mm.
were some of the frustrations that you were running into, aside from the fact that you were teaching instruments that you didn't necessarily feel comfortable teaching?
I mean the pay was extremely low, um, and I knew that. I took it as like, okay, I'm going to start here and not stay here, which is exactly what happened. But not only was it a low pay, but there was all this micromanaging and like having to do all this corporate stuff and take the same video trainings, like, and they'd almost like bully you into doing it, and it's like kindergarten level trainings, like that nobody needed. So all this, use your imagination, just turn music into a corporation. Like no one's happy, especially the people working in that corporation, because everyone has to come down on other people, and that's part of even my teaching is like, okay, if you need a push, like I'll give you a push, especially if you ask for it. But like music should be fun. Like music should be something that you're intrinsically motivated for, and not everybody has the goal of becoming like a professional orchestra player. You know, not everybody wants to make music such a discipline, and there's no right or wrong in that. There's just not.
Absolutely.
Some people just want to play five chords around a campfire, and that might be the difference in their confidence day to day. It has a huge impact. So.
One thing that impacts not only, like you said, their enjoyment and their lifestyle, but also their relationships. When we're talking about this ability to sit down and play and share, it impacts their friends and family in a really
Mm-hmm.
positive way too. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're not just talking about a hobby, but we're talking about entertainment value and
Mm-hmm.
relationship building, and it's really exciting. So you're right, music has so many purposes,
Mm-hmm.
especially for our young adult into adult students that are looking to share that passion and share that skill with others. That's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So when we first met, and I keep kind of backing up a little bit, but I met several months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when we met, you had a very specific lifestyle in mind that you were hoping to achieve. Can you describe that for me a little bit? Like this goal that you had in mind and what you wanted your life to look like versus what it looked like then.
So, just I don't like feeling trapped. I feel a lot of value for limitations and discipline, especially in like daily routines and lifestyle in general. But I want it to be like limitations I impose on myself rather than externally. And so when you work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, even 5 days a week, even 3 days a week for something that's not your creation, which is what we're sold as being normal in society, unless you're one of the people that really vibes with that, which is not, again, not wrong, it feels like a prison, like a daily prison, because you can't escape. And so I wanted to be able to take road trips and be able to take I mean, not that I changed my schedule up and take days off all the time, but like worst comes to worst, if friends visiting out of town, be like, hey, let's move these lessons. I want to be able to maximize that time too. And
Absolutely.
again, like you said, I probably won't stay in Vermont for the whole rest of my life. It is awesome here though. I live 5 minutes away from a ski mountain. In the winter, like I want to go skiing, and I don't want to have just one day a week where I can. I can go skiing before my lessons or after. Like what a dream, you know? What a dream. Or on a Thursday.
Yeah.
What a dream. And I'm like one of the only young people there. It's hilarious.
Everyone else is
So,
retired and there's Max vibing. I get it.
yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's kind of back up one last time to when we first
Mm.
met. How did you and I meet? Do you remember?
You found me on Facebook, and
Yeah, I
I
think we were in a
must
group.
have commented on something in some group. Um, and I've been in the entrepreneur space. Like I'm used to people reaching out to me, so I was like, okay, this is interesting, and I must have gone to your profile, and I liked what I saw. And as you said, like this having like my own studio wasn't a new idea, but I just because none of it's rocket science, but I just didn't know exactly where to start. You know, and not only does your program provide the steps, but it provides a community of other, like
Yeah.
like just some of the conversations and knowing that there's other people with a similar goal and similar business as me is really cool. And then you've done it yourself too, so um, we were able to vibe on many levels, and we had some good calls. And you didn't really take much convincing to to get me on board, to be honest.
Well, and like you said, like there's no secret sauce here. Like this isn't
Mm-hmm.
something, I try to be really transparent about what it is that I share and what we do because there's no sense in gatekeeping any of that. Like everyone needs this
Mm-hmm.
information. And some people want help with it and others won't, and that's totally fine. But when we're talking about your situation, you'd had this dream for a while, but it hadn't come to fruition quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
So when we decided to work together, what was it that kicked you over the fence, and what did you see that you thought this was really the right fit for you, and this was going to be the thing that pushed you forward?
So let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I've also had training and experience as a copywriter, as well as some other things, and I was just trying to like make it work as an online business for a few years, starting from like zero, like no connections, nobody in my life even knowing anything about even brick and mortar entrepreneurship for the most part, and so no support, just like I found some coaches here and there over the years, and I had this part of my ego saying like, oh, like it has to be like a writing business, or it has to be like a sales business, it has to be like this kind of business, like you can't be a music teacher as your first business, like that's a backup, that's a backup. And at some point I was like, that's my ego talking, like I, why not take the low hanging fruit with something that will still light me up, because music is more than, it's always going to be more than a business, you know. Music is spiritual, really. And and I had this almost surrender that's like, okay, like that, there's actually shame in running from that, like there's no shame in like doing music as a business. And and also, I mean, I'm a very competent musician, but I'm no virtuoso in anything. So there's also some, but it's like a lot of my students, they don't even know how to play G chord at the beginning. You know, they don't know how to play Happy Birthday. Like, and I have some students that are very talented too. But it's about, you know, what we know. You study music for 20 years, like you're gonna know something more than someone who knows it by ear and has only been playing for a few years. Like there's always gonna be some value that you can give. And I just saw it as a path for me to share talents and gifts and positive energy with the world in a way that also was able to fill me with energy. And it just started making sense. And I don't know if I told you this, but I think there was a point where I was like, subconsciously manifesting a music business coach, and I really took it as a sign when you reached out that
Oh my gosh.
that was the manifestation.
Oh, that's
And the,
awesome. I did
it
not know
was,
that.
yeah, it was one of many synchronicities that happened and has happened since, especially with connections with
Yeah.
people. But I was like, you know what? I've been subconsciously asking for this. I'm not gonna say I like made like altars and stuff for that, but like it wasn't that intense. But I was
Right.
like,
This is something you were looking for, and it kind of fell in your
yeah.
lap. Yeah,
And we had all these great calls, and I'm like, this is what I'm asking for. Like
that's awesome.
I'm gonna run to it. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, when we first started working together, you were still working 6 days a week. So we're talking about putting a ton of time into your
Mm,
studio and building it and finding this opportunity. And that was hard in the beginning. I mean,
mm,
you had a lot of other things that ate up your time, needed to eat up your
mm,
time, right? We were still had to pay the bills, all that good stuff. So we had all these other things that were on our plate. And the first, I don't know, what would you say, like 2 or 3 months, it was a lot of like split focus. Like we're trying to just find a few
100%.
students so we can start to transition out of other things, build this up
Mm,
slowly. And then once we have a few students on the docket, we can leave a day at Guitar Center. Once we
mm,
have a few students on the docket, we can cut back in some of the other jobs that we have.
mm.
So at what point did you realize like I'm ready. Like I can quit a job or I can scale back a Guitar Center, I can scale back on copywriting. When was the first time you really realized that you had livable, predictable income coming in from this business?
Again, there were 2 points, because the funny thing is that right after I met you, I met someone else who wanted me as a writer for his agency, and he had me salaried, and that work started low, so I was like, great, you know, and then it kept increasing, and the pay didn't. So that was there too, and then I had to leave that. I left that about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, I think. That was kind of like Guitar Center number two. Um, I think pretty quickly after, because I had also like 12 students at Guitar Center, and at that pay level, when I had 3 or 4 students at my own price, and at first I just upped the Guitar Center price just a little bit. Um, it was equal, and I was like, I'm losing money staying at Guitar Center. Like I'm losing money, and then I still had some ego shit. Like, still I didn't quit right away, and at some point it was like this pressure was building. I was doing the other thing, the writing, this, and and I'm the one losing.
So we hit this point where you were able to start scaling back a Guitar Center. You're looking at the numbers and thinking, I'm losing money by being here. It's time to go full force. So at what point did you actually leave Guitar Center? I think this was like what, 3 or 4 months in?
Yeah, so it was before Christmas, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it was also like painful to stay, you know,
Yeah.
um, because I'm like switching the Zoom links, and I'm like, this one I'm getting paid like nothing, and I'm doing the same thing. Um, and the official last date was December 31st, so I didn't work into 2022 at all.
Yeah. So it's been a few months now.
Mm.
What areas of your life have improved now that we're talking about a full studio? I mean, and when I say full studio, I guess I should clarify too. I mean, we're talking about 10 hours a week of teaching right now. You've got 19 students. We've added 23, but we
Mm.
refocused a few months in at some point, and we had a conversation about your ideal student
Mm.
and making sure that we were working with people that we actually wanted to be working with. And we weren't just allowing that kind of,
Mm.
working for someone else, you just get anyone that comes in the door,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So we refocused on that and made sure that our pricing and our ideal student were squared away. So now we're at 19 students and about $3,600 a month in new revenue.
Mm.
What other areas of your life have improved?
I mean, a lot. I've been able to, because it's kind of funny. I'm working three days a week, pretty much. Like I said, one lesson on Thursday, and I'm making more than I ever did working 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week, which is pretty crazy. Um, the funny thing is like some things have changed and some things just feel normal. Like I left Guitar Center 2 months ago, and it already feels like a different life. You know, even when we met, you said September. I'm like, wow, like that feels like a different version of myself. So I've been able to, a lot of my like just general routines were thrown out of whack, and been able to get better on just like the things that I do specifically for me, morning practices, evening practices. I've been able to branch out. I mean, it's kind of funny. I have other projects that I'm working on too, but they're all for me, you know. So I'm able to be able to do other stuff in a good energy without always having to feel like I'm rushing it, because the studio has some preparation and um, some like talking to people outside of time, and then trial lessons can take up. But like ultimately, I'm working set amount of hours a day, pretty much 3 days a week. So I have time to, especially that I left the writing job. I mean, I just went on a cool like road trips and had
That's
friends
awesome.
visit me on a Wednesday night, and we were able to ski 2 days and then go to
Yeah.
New York, and like we did all this cool stuff,
You
and
have
I
the
came
time and the funds and the freedom and the
exactly,
flexibility. Yeah.
and I came back on
Yeah.
a Monday at like noon. You know,
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
think,
a different lifestyle. So
and I'm not sure if you've experienced this too, but when we talk about entrepreneurship and running your own business, and I mean, a lot of people, you're right. When people talk about private music lessons, you don't necessarily think of it being a business. It's just like I
mm-hmm,
teach lessons, and that's
mm-hmm,
for some people their side hustle. For some people that they want it to be more of a full-time income, but it's just not there yet. But when we're talking about it, it's very difficult for people to see it as a business because when we're musicians, we're taught, teach and play for the love of the music, not for an income, right?
mm-hmm,
Starving
mm-hmm,
artist is more typical than a thriving musician who has all
mm-hmm,
this freedom and flexibility. But beyond that, there's this big push in the entrepreneurial mindset to give it everything you have and like work yourself to the bone to get there. And that if you're going to have a successful business with a livable income, it has to be this big, enthralling process. And that's not what we're aiming to do, right? We're trying to put in repeatable processes so that you can teach the students that you want in the schedule that you want and make the money that you want. And that looks different for everyone, right? So people want to be making more, and so they'll want to have a more full schedule, and that's fine too.
mm-hmm.
But do you feel like this has been a big push for you and an overwhelming push, or do you feel like this has been something that's been very manageable and has fit into your desired journey the entire time?
I'll say yes. I'd say the stuff that was less manageable is everything else I was doing,
Mm,
especially the writing. Music teaching is very energetic work, but it has an end time, right? Writing doesn't. So
right.
that was taking up a lot of my time and energy and life force and all that. And what I always appreciate about the music teaching is it's there's a set time when it's done.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes a parent comes on at the end of the lesson and we stay a bit longer and talk about it, but it's gonna be done. It's gonna be done. Um, and I mean, I love working with people one on one. I just love it because you get to see that progress and be a part of somebody's life in a way that I mean, like especially you work with a kid and you teach music to them, like you're impacting their whole family.
Yeah.
You know, it's really amazing. So I don't know.
So,
Maybe the big push was just in the personal transformation, but in terms
mm,
of a lot of the work, like there was pushes, but it wasn't as major as as what it takes to build some other businesses. And I'm learning the same business skills in this business that are going to be transferable to anything else. So I
I'm
mean,
excited for you because
it's
I know that the last few months have just been
yeah.
amazing and the growth has been fantastic. I know that it's still continuing. We're not quite done yet, but we are getting close, which is
Mm-hmm.
really exciting and to be
Mm-hmm.
here. And one of the things that I want to just emphasize is, you know, a lot of us come looking to teach, but we have other things going on in our life.
Mm.
And Max is a really good testament to the fact that it's absolutely possible to be building this alongside of your other things. Like, this does not need to be a full-time job building your
Mm.
studio. Like, sure, if you aren't doing other things and this is your entire life and you're putting all of your time and energy into it, sure, it'll go faster. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. But it's still in 5 6 months you were able to build up a livable income and leave those jobs and
Multiple things.
replace that, which is fantastic. So it can absolutely still happen quickly. Definitely. Now, you mentioned that you teach multiple instruments. So kind of give me a breakdown right now in your studio. Roughly how many of those students, of like the 20 or so that you're teaching right now, are piano versus guitar versus ukulele?
So I have some students that do multiple instruments. And what I like to tell people that are into this is like, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I have a keyboard. I'd love to learn how to play it," but they sign up for guitar lessons, and I'm like, "Well, with me, you're taking music lessons. You're not just taking one instrument, unless that's what you want it to be, which is great too. That's better focus." So I have three strict piano students, one of whom sometimes also does guitar or uke. She's also a good singer. So I'm not a voice teacher, but I have a couple singers too that we work on composition. And I have, I think, five or six ukulele students, and the rest are guitar. So I'm mostly guitar. So I would call myself mostly a guitar teacher, but and mostly a string teacher at that too. And I feel most confident and I have the most fun teaching strings, but I have a couple piano students too.
I think that's important to note because a lot of teachers that teach piano, it's easy for us to let that take over our entire studio,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of our refocusing a few months ago, is
Mm-hmm.
figuring out who we really wanted to be teaching and making sure that
Mm-hmm.
if we're going to take on piano students, it's the right ones, not just any
Mm-hmm.
ones, and we're not just like letting beginner piano students fill all of our slots,
Mm-hmm.
because that is very easily done. So it was
Mm-hmm.
important that we rectified that pretty early on too, and made sure we had a clear picture of what we wanted. But
Mm-hmm.
all in all, the studio is obviously in great shape. It's been such an
Mm-hmm.
exciting journey, and it's been such an
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable process to see you grow and thrive, and the excitement that you have and the passion for your teaching, which has been wonderful. So, kind of final set of questions here. What brought you to this point in doing business with us? Do you recommend this community and our program for other people?
Yeah, totally. It's so if you really want something, I mean, you have the choice to go at it alone, or you have the choice to find other people that are doing something similar. And what's nice about starting a music teaching business is that's pretty specific, you know. But then at the same time, I've had cool conversations with drum teachers in the group, with oboe teachers in the group, with voice and acting teachers in the group. It, you know, I don't have to only vibe with other guitar teachers or other ukulele teachers. Um, just teaching music is niche. It's like kind of broad and niche at the same time. It's broad when you're in that world, and it's niche when you're not in that world. So, I mean, I've learned a lot just from hearing other people's journeys too, in addition to the program. And you yourself, you're a clarinet teacher. I think that's pretty cool. Um, you know, it's not you're not just a piano teacher, right? Like you're not teaching one of the like stereotypical instruments. Maybe I'm not finding the words. You know what I
The
mean?
easily filled studios.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
which I mean, we have to be candid about that too. There are some instruments that fill
Mhm.
faster, like beginning piano students. There's just a
Mm,
lot of them, which is totally fine.
mm,
Those studios are easy to fill, but the point is that it's not just the piano studios that we can fill fast. That's exciting.
mm.
We've got a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, and so it's just been plus even if you're not hopping on calls with these people, just having a Facebook group where you can get your question answered within an hour or less is incredible because everyone in the group has a similar mindset, and that mindset is like we take this seriously enough to want to invest in it, and that's one of the biggest lessons to learn in business or in life in general is environment is really really key. And what was the other part of your question?
So, if someone is excited about this and they're looking to start this, do you recommend this program? And I guess if so, if you do recommend it, who do you think this is the best fit for?
Okay, so yeah, definitely recommend it. Um,
Thank you.
and so anyone that it's kind of cool because so I'd been working as a music teacher already, but I think even someone that hasn't previously been working as a music teacher, but has the drive and has the mindset. There's some basic mindset things that I think would be a criteria to enter the program. Um, willing to invest, willing to be coached, willing to put time in, willing to be vulnerable, put yourself in position to learn new skills, some social media skills, some interpersonal skills, some sales skills, but all that's part of the program too. I'm just saying, I think this program's a great fit for someone who's working at like a store that they want to leave, who's working a job that they don't really like, and they just know that music can be monetized because it totally can be. I didn't, you know, I used to be one of those people who thought it couldn't, proving myself wrong, and just people that like connecting with other people because you're going to connect with new students, with new families, but also with new other music teachers. And if you aren't confident in your musical skills, well, join the group and hire one of these teachers. You're going to be surrounded by a lot of really great teachers that you can up your skills with them too.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, if you, I think of investing in coaching programs as an energy exchange. So if you're willing to exchange that energy, take the jump because everyone that I talked to, we all, even when you weren't around, we all would be like, "This program's awesome. Like we love Kelly. Like we think it's really awesome. We're so glad we invested in it." Um,
Appreciate that, Max.
that's
Thank you.
what I have to say.
Thank you. Well, look, I've really enjoyed working with you, and I'm thrilled
Mm,
that we're still working together. I know we have other
mm,
projects that we're kind of turning our attention towards too now, which is
mm,
so fun and exciting. But this you're right, it is an energy exchange, and we work really hard in this group to make sure that it is the right cohort, the right people. It's a
mm,
fun, energetic group of teachers that
mm,
really care not only about their own success but about each other's success. And you've been a wonderful resource for others in the group, and you're so willing to share, and I really appreciate that. So
mm.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
If people
thank
wanted
you.
to learn more about your studio and your teaching, where could they find you on the internet?
Specifically about my studio, You can find me on social media on a few platforms, but my studio is weltmanstudios.com. That's WELTMAN studios.com. I believe it also says it on the
Yeah,
little Zoom
absolutely.
video thing. And I mean, I love talking to people, so anyone has any questions, you can message me directly as well. Um,
Thank you. Appreciate
yeah.
that. That's helpful. That's helpful. I really appreciate your time and all of your insight and your openness and willing to share, Max. It was really helpful today. Thank you again for all of the insight. And thank you, everyone that tuned in to this interview, for
Mm,
watching and taking the time today. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Max. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Kelly.
Bye.